Welcome to the Trump Breaking News Network, your daily source for up-to-the-minute Trump news. Join us today and every day. Here's today's news.
This is TBNN.
We interrupt this video to bring you a special announcement. We will continue with your video after this short announcement. There is a massive boycott with YouTube and its advertisers happening right now. This boycott threatens our existence, as well as the entire YouTube channel database. You can do a search on Google to confirm this boycott. We urge you to help by supporting our channel with a $1 donation, just $1, to help offset our growing expenses. Our staff is working diligently to keep you informed and up to date on events and intel that you have grown accustomed to receiving. Our staff produce over 70 videos on a daily basis in English and in Spanish. This is a tremendous undertaking. This is why we use a computerized voice, because of the massive amount of information we provide for you. We accept PayPal donations, and our donation link is below in our description. When the boycott is over, we'll let you know. This is a serious situation for YouTube and its advertisers. If you appreciate our channel and the intel that we provide for you, then please consider this much-needed $1 donation. I want to personally thank you in advance for your support. Victory of the light. And now, here is your scheduled video.
Some Americans may get stranded on the Mexican side of Trump's beautiful border wall. By Tyler Durden. While happy campaign rhetoric made it sound like building a 2,000-foot wall along the U.S. southern border would be a walk in the park, in reality, much like repealing and replacing Obamacare and/or passing meaningful tax reform, various regulatory and other hurdles could tie up the project for years. One such issue that threatens the viability of Trump's beautiful border wall stems from the fact that most of the southern border of Texas is owned by private individuals, which means the U.S. government will have to take 100 landowners to court to exert its power of eminent domain. Moreover, as NBC points out, some folks live so close to the Rio Grande River that they may end up on the Mexican side of the wall. Of course, these landowner fights could provide all the leverage needed for liberal lawyers to hold up the border wall construction forever, or at least until Trump gets voted out of office. When the U.S. government built the fence, it had to take hundreds of landowners to court to use its power of eminent domain. That's because unlike in other southern border states, most Texas borderland is privately owned, and tough terrain and water use agreements with Mexico meant some fence was built a mile or more north of the river. With court fights also expected over Trump's wall, the Texas Civil Rights Project has begun signing up landowners and identifying people who might be affected. Under the U.S. Constitution, the government must prove it wants to seize land for public use and must offer a landowner just compensation. While challenging the wall's public use would be difficult, those who believe they're not getting the full value of their land could take the case to court, setting up trials that could take years. Even if they don't win, lawyers hope to tie up the wall in court long enough that politics could effectively stop it, either in Congress or after another election. That's a fight that we've been ready to fight, said Efrain Olivares, a lawyer with the Texas Civil Rights Project. Border wall. Of course, when it comes to conservatives in Texas, almost nothing draws more ire from voters than the idea of stripping them of their private property rights through the assertion of eminent domain. Moreover, in this specific instance, those voters will find unlikely support from any number of liberal organizations who will be all too willing to fund their legal costs to fight Trump and his wall. In San Benito, Eloisa Tamez spent 7 years trying to stop the government from running the fence through her property, which had been in her family since the 1700s. The government eventually won, but only after agreeing to pay about $56,000, many times what it initially offered. She uses a gate to access the part of her property that's on the other side of the fence. Now, she's preparing for the possibility of another court battle. "I probably have one more decade to live, and I had 1 decade of torture," said Thomas, 82. "I think if they start that business again, I don't know how much fight I'll have left in me, but I'm going to fight it until the end." Something tells us that yet another Trump initiative just got demoted from a near certainty to a maybe apostrophe ... right along with healthcare and tax reform.
That's the news. Join us here every day. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell. See you next time.
This is TBNN.